The war in Iran is spelling bad news for farmers, with the Strait of Hormuz responsible for 40% of nitrogen fertilisers. Prices are already skyrocketing, so how does it affect food prices down the line? Let's go to David Birkett, Arable farmer, joining us this morning. Hey, David.
G'day, Ryan.
Good to have you on the show. Tell me, what's the impact so far?
So far, we haven't seen the impact, but we know it will be coming. We'll see an increase in fertiliser prices in the very near future. And obviously, that's a key component of the input prices that go into the crops that we grow and the grass, which goes into the dairy, the sheep and beef and the arable crops. So we know it's coming. It's a bit like the fuel prices. We know that they're going up. The question is just for how long and for how much will they rise by?
Stephen Joyce, we've just had him on the show. He's saying, farmers are in a relatively good position at the minute, given where we've been over the last year or two. So it might be something that we can wear.
Yes, that's true to a degree. Dairy and the red meat sector is having really good commodity prices at the moment, but the arable sector and it's the sector that probably uses the most fuel. It's having a real challenging time at the moment, both with commodity prices and with weather events over the summer. So, in general, yes, he's right, but there are sectors of agriculture which are already struggling and will struggle even more with this increase in pricing.
Just give us an idea of how much, your combine harvester or whatever it is, how much petrol, oil, gas, what are you using, how much of it, how expensive is it to harvest?
Yeah, look, we're in the middle of harvest at the moment in summer, and a large combine harvester will use about 1,000 litres a day, and then we still have the trucks and the tractors and trailers and grain augers to get that product off the paddocks and into the silos. So, in a day, we could easily be using a couple of thousand litres of diesel. So, when we see price increases, that rapidly increases the cost of production, which therefore increases the cost of the product that we're selling. The challenge for us is making sure that we can recoup those costs, and under our current contract systems, we aren't able to do that. So we're signing contracts now for next year's production, not knowing what these costs will be going forward for the next year.
Can you explain that? What do you mean? So you're signing contracts now for the inputs or for your goods, and if you're signing them for your goods, you don't know what you're paying for the inputs yet.
Yeah. So we're signing contracts now for next year's harvest, which will be in 2027, sort of January, February 2027. And so, we've got to guess what those costs are going to be, and we don't have any mechanisms at the moment in our industry to make how do we recuperate those costs. So that's been a real challenge for the industry going forward, and it's something that we're going to have to rectify, because we're seeing more and more of these price shocks and global events, and these types of situations are going to happen more often. So we need to build some more resilience into our systems of how we operate and how we contract.
How do you do that? Do you mean like a clause in the contract, or do you mean physically how you're operating?
It's a bit of both. There are physical things you can do about having more supplies on hand, but it's also about how contracts are written up and making sure that they are fair and that the time frame. So from the time we sign that contract, it can be up to 18 months before we see our money, and that's a long time. And a lot of events can happen in that 18 months, which will impact on our bottom line.
Who's buying it off you?
Some of it's a range. So we've got flour millers, so we produce flour for bread. A lot of it's seed production, which we do, which also goes up to the Northern Hemisphere and is exported. And obviously, these fuel costs and this conflict is going to impact on the ability to get product to the Northern Hemisphere as well. So it's going to impact on freighting costs as well as access to the Northern Hemisphere through the Suez Canal and all, which has always been a challenge since COVID.
David, should we be preparing for more expensive food?
Yes, at the end of the day, this will flow into food without a doubt. We know it's unfortunate because we know how challenging it is for the cost of living at the moment, but this will flow into food. And at the end of the day, all food needs to be transported, and all that transport does use fuel. And So, it's an ongoing challenge that we all have, and there will be an increase in food prices along the line. It would all depend on how long the conflict lasts for, and just how high those fuel and fertilizer prices do get.